Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we are going to be carrying on with January's exceptional story, Adornment, and we are currently in a collapsed mine. Your world is darkness and dust. Every night you sleep on bare rock. Your daily meal is an ancient biscuit, salvaged from a miner's lunchbox. Your water trickles from above and is methane flavored. Time passes agonizingly slowly. Micah jumps up at the slightest sound of falling rubble, hoping it's a team of rescuers come to dig you out, but no luck. Conversation dried up on the first day. Since then, Micah, the smuggler, and Mr. Stones have each taken up residence in different areas of the collapsed mine. Well, let's start at the top here and work our way down. Let's spend some time with the superstitious smuggler. Their fever worsens with every passing day. The smuggler is propped up next to where you dug them from the rubble. It proved impossible to move them much further. They no longer cut quite so dashing a figure. One eye socket is empty and red. Their legs have been splintered with a pickaxe handle and bandaged with rags, but are still unpleasant to look upon. They offer you the ghost of a smile. This didn't go quite according to plan, did it? Did indeed not. The smuggler's empty eye socket stares at you accusingly. All my life I've tried to look after my own luck. Never broke a mirror, never walked under a ladder, hung a horseshoe over my bed. Look where it bloody got me. We can ask for their help in hatching an escape plan. You need to get out of here, but you can't do it alone. The smuggler barks a short, sharp laugh. What's the point? They said. The damn master is still holding on to the Conningham. As long as the diamond's around, we'll never find a way out. Mark my words. That seems unlikely. Let's dispute their tale of revenge. They claim to be seeking revenge on Mr. Stones for the murder of a husband. So how come they haven't mentioned said husband since? Fine, I made it up, snaps the smuggler. You put me on the spot. I wasn't sure if you supported the cause or not. The cause? The liberation, says the smuggler. And for a moment, their eyes are fire. Mr. Stones was just a means to an end, the master I could trust to seek the jewel. I was hoping the diamond's curse would destroy the entire bazaar, just as it did the French monarchy and the British Empire. Do you think the liberation will get anywhere with bombs, chum? No, we must turn fate and fortune against them. It's a solid plan, I'll give him that. The logic is not that bad, I suppose. Let's chat to Micah. Micah has taken up residence next to the wall of rubble that blocks your escape to the outside world. Every day, he digs at it, and every day, more rocks tumble down to replace what he removes. At the moment, he is hunched over a small leather-bound book, reading by the light of a scavenged candle stub. He looks up as you approach. Keep your spirits up, he says. Help is on the way, I am sure. How may I assist? Let's ask. He can help us escape. Somehow I don't think so. I am already digging every day to no avail, says Micah. There is nothing else I can do but pray. Okay, well, let's ask about his unfinished nature. What marks him as different from other clay men? I am missing an ear, says Micah, but in exchange I have my free will, a fair enough trade. In London, it is commonly accepted that unfinished men are dangerous, amoral by nature. That's why the masters put men like Jasper and Frank to such good use. Perhaps that is the case for me as well, says Micah. I do not always conduct myself with moral fortitude, but the Lord gave me free will, and with my free will I choose to believe in him. That would explain the small leather-bound book he is always reading. For 5 years I've belonged to the Religious Society of Friends. I do my best to live according to our principles. He turns around and lifts his shirt, revealing a tight script across his broad shoulders. I have carved 77 verses of scripture into my back, so I am never without guidance. Let's ask him what he thinks of the smugglers' liberationism. The smuggler wants darkness to overcome light, broadly speaking. They are a liberationist, says Micah bitterly. I had no idea. I wish they'd told me that before they dragged me into this mess against my will. Pauses. But I cannot be too upset with them. They are in a pitiable state. The fault is mine for not resisting their plans more stridently. What do you think of Mr. Stones, the diamond-obsessed master who is currently hanging upside down in a nearby mine shaft? It terrifies me, says Micah with a shudder. It could order its lackeys to destroy me utterly and feel nothing as it watched me broken to pieces. Its motivations are impossible for me to understand. Mostly, it just seems to like shiny rocks. I suppose so, concedes Micah. Well, let's leave him to his book. Let's seek out Mr. Stones. Somewhere, it is nowhere to be found, no matter how hard you search. Usually, though, it can be found lurking on a rocky outcrop in the mine shaft where you first discovered it. It is currently engaged in its favourite activity, holding the Conningham diamond over a lantern and admiring the glimmer within the stone, utterly transfixed. When you approach, its only acknowledgement of your presence is to extend a single talon, still encrusted with dust-caked jewels, and beckon. Let's ask for help. You need to get out of here, but you can't do it alone.
No need, says Mr. Stones. The other masters of the bazaar will be aware of my absence by now. They will come to my rescue soon.
You haven't heard any sound of nearby digging. Mr. Stones is ironclad in its confidence. Let's ask about Micah and the smuggler.
Don't think of them,
snaps Mr. Stones.
Irrelevant.
That was easy. Let's ask about his favourite topic. A true enthusiast can never resist talking about their passion. You ask what it finds so fascinating about the Conningham.
Magnificence,
says Mr. Stones shrilly, turning to glare at you.
A piece of eternity.
But what does that mean?
Especially brilliant, exposed to the surface.
It turns the cursed diamond over in its claws.
Sunlight is trapped within, pinned like insect in amber. Majesty, mastery, potential.
It flicks its claw, dismissing you. Its attention appears fully back on the Conningham. Interesting way of looking at stones and diamonds and things. There's one last thing we could do here, hang on. Oh no, we can leave him to his obsession, okay. So the last thing we can do here is attempt to dig our own way out. So far you've made no progress, but surely it's better than doing nothing. You take up your place beside Micah and swing your trusty pickaxe until your arms are sore. No luck. The rubble falls down as quickly as you can pull it away. Death might be your only way out, but there's no guarantee you wouldn't just return down here. Besides, it's not an option for Micah. Better to spend another few days here in hope of escape. A sudden trickling sound. You can hear something pouring down the walls at the end of the tunnel. Could it be fresh water? I don't know, our current way of doing things is probably oil or something. Oh, a flood of lacquer. Oh great, wonderful. Lifting your lantern high, you see that something pale and molten is seeping up through the floor and cascading from the walls. It swirls around your feet, stinking of ammonia and fish. When you bring Micah to take a look, he takes a horrified step back. "Lacquer," he says, his voice dipping with dread. "It finds its way into the mines from the reservoirs sometimes. Can sweep away whole groups of miners." The lacquer in the tunnel is already ankle deep. There's no obvious leak. It seems to be oozing in incredible quantities through the vast network of cracks in the stone, the weeping of the walls. It is as though you are trapped within a giant, hollow, melting candle. Liquid lacquer swirls around your feet. It drips down the walls. It falls from the ceiling. It slithers down the back of your neck. You can't have much longer before it fills the mines entirely. At this rate, just a few days and then, presumably, you will drown. Hey, a few days is better than straight away. Let's speak to the superstitious smuggler. Micah lifted them to a high outcrop. They're above the lacquer's reach. For now. Let's ask what they think of Micah's faith. They knew the Clayman was secretly unfinished. They know about his beliefs. "Yes, I know. The Clayman's a Quaker," says the smuggler, grimacing. "I'd laugh if I had the energy. Poor thing, believing in such outmoded concepts." You protest that the smuggler believes in the protective properties of a correctly aligned horseshoe. They would cross the road to avoid a black cat. "That's different," says the smuggler. "That stuff's real." "God, though? There's no God, or at least not as the Quakers understand it. Only a terrible light that must be extinguished. You know, now I know that the smuggler is part of the liberation of night, I'm not that sympathetic to his cause anymore." I guess we'll have to see where this goes. Ask what they think of Mr. Stones' obsession. Even now, the Master seems more interested in the Conningham Diamond than finding an escape route. Uh-oh, my nightmares are increasing rather high. I kind of forgot they were that high. "We need to get rid of that thing," says the smuggler, wincing as they rub their legs. "As long as its curse is upon us, there's no way we'll escape. All we need to do is find a nice deep mine shaft, preferably leading directly into the bowels of hell, and drop it down there." You point out that hell is actually to the west of London, not below. Figure of speech, mumbles the smuggler. "Well, let's ask again for help with an urgent escape plan." "What can I do?" shrieks the smuggler, gesturing at their legs. "Ask somebody else, I'm all out of ideas." "Alright. Go speak to Micah." Take heart, my friend. The light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehends it not." "I am digging day and night," says Micah, hefting his pickaxe and striking the lacquer-sodden rubble, "but I make no progress. What more can I do?" He clasps your shoulder. "Even now, all is lost. The Lord will provide. I just do not know exactly how." "Alright then, back to the Master." You find Mr. Stones pacing back and forth, its robe dragging heavily through the lacquer.
"Is this it?"
It is demanding, speaking apparently to thin air.
"Is this what thou hast been holding over our heads for so long? Pathetic, unconcerning. The others will find me soon. It shall indeed be postponed further."
When it notices you, it whirls around, talons extended.
"What do you want?"
It shrieks at the top of its voice. Who are you talking to? Interesting. Leave Mr. Stones to its panic. By the time you wade your way back to your little camp, you're too starved and exhausted to move. You climb onto a high shelf above the lacquer's cloying grasp and start counting down the hours until you'll allow yourself your next biscuit. Oh dear. Hold your nerve. The lacquer is rising. Try not to panic. The lacquer has risen almost over your neck. You half swim, half wade through the tunnels, searching for something, anything that will help you escape. The smuggler's lantern floats past, its light dwindling. Then finally, it snuffs out. You are plunged once more into an all-consuming darkness. Your strength leaves you. You sink into the lacquer and are, for a moment, submerged. Open your lacquer-soaked eyes. The world is changing around you. Colours bleed together. You hear a hymn sung by 1,000 voices. You can feel it distantly. Your arms flailing, your lungs flooding, your brain shrivelling without air. It no longer seems as pressing a concern as it should be. Yes, you are drowning in a lacquer-flooded mineshaft. You're also walking down a gas-lit London street, a sack of pamphlets under one arm, whistling a merry tune and hopping over the cracks in the pavement. And you're also standing in a circle, surrounded by a dozen miners, all of you belting out a Christmas carol at the top of your lungs. And you're also soaring. The wind snapped at your wings, a freshly stolen diamond clutched in your talons, and raising your voice in an excellent scream. The whistling, the singing, the screeching, it is all swallowed by roaring, howling, rhythmless cacophony symphony. 1,000 voices, what 1,000,000, swelling up from beneath you like a leviathan rising from the depths. You don't know if you add your own voice to it. Perhaps you do. It would be impossible to tell. The tumult drowns out your thoughts. It blasts away your memories like sand in a storm. You wake up in a place you do not recognize. Looking around, you find yourself in a maze, cobbled together from mismatched architecture. Horse heads, sand-swept ochre walls, shattered pillars, immense stairways curving overhead. You only know one thing for certain. Something is behind you, a monster pursuing you relentlessly, and to even look upon it would destroy you. Okay, so what options do we have? We can try to remember who we are. Success here will make checks in the labyrinth easier. Well, that seems like a good place to start. We can also seek out the smuggler, search for Micah, or track down Mr. Stones, but let's remember who we are. Or perhaps who you were. The problem isn't a lack of memories. It's a glut, like a flood. You remember holding a flapping quail aloft, pressing an obsidian blade against its neck and feeling its warm blood sliding down your wrist. Digging into a sizzling feast of horse sausages as you regale your sons with tales of the hunt. Writing poems beneath the silver tree. Bathing in mare's milk in the secret perfumed rooms beneath the Khan's palace. The priest in red feathers cackling as he slips his knife between your ribs. No, those memories are not your own. There was a place called London. It was deep and dark and marvellous, and you saw such things there. Scraps of it are coming back to you, enough to remember, more or less, who you were. How much time do I actually have here? Looks like we can lose ourselves in the city fourfold to gain more time. Can we do another check here to try and increase it even higher? Let's try it. You can practically feel its breath on the back of your neck. That doesn't seem good. Let's lose ourselves. Across a moss-swept plaza surrounded by high temples under an arch bearing the image of a stallion. Through a stone door bearing the stylized image of an eye. As you walk, you are buffeted by memories not your own. You are bent-backed and sweating, rolling a colossal stone block towards a half-built ziggurat. You are carving an idol from soap to protect your home from the things that don't exist, but want to. You are running in terror, your child clutched to your breast, as the ground shakes beneath your feet and the streets split open as you stumble. Your child, too heavy. You pass deeper and deeper into other people's lives, and leave the monstrous memory far behind. So the real question is, who do we want to find here? Do we want to find the smuggler, Micah, or the stones, or all three of them? Let's start with the smuggler. You walk beneath gas lamps and horse heads and stone idols, shouting the smuggler's name. The labyrinth fades into lightless, airless nothing, a darkness that hungers. At the centre of the vast darkness, you find the smuggler crouched over a tiny, sputtering campfire. Desperately, they are tearing scraps of memory from their skull and feeding them to the flames. Parents' faces, words spoken in anger, a first kiss and a last, all go into the fire. "Help me," says the smuggler desperately, looking up at you with hollow eyes. "We have to keep it alive." We can either feed the flames, you have to keep it alive, this is a forceful choice, or we can extinguish the fire. It won't stop burning until they're all gone. I think we're going to extinguish the fire, because otherwise he's just going to feed all his memories away, and what's the point? "No!" shouts the smuggler as you drag them away from the fire. "Please!" The surrounding darkness pounces, mercilessly hungry. The campfire dwindles and dies. Suddenly, you are freezing cold. For a moment, just for a moment, you find yourself suspended in a whirling torrent of lacquer. Your lungs burning for air. The smuggler is beside you, clinging pathetically to a ledge, their fingertips slipping. Then, you are back in the labyrinth, with the smuggler picking through the remnants of the fire. "I know how to get us out of the mines," says the smuggler, tracing patterns in the ash. "I can't control the real world with curses and charms, but I think this place is different. It responds to my way of thinking. I can take control, if only for a moment." What are they saying? "When the time comes, push me into the lacquer," says the smuggler, and then they are gone. Okay, let's lose ourselves again, because I think the monster is upon us. Maybe. It lowers the chances. It lowers the chances indeed. Maybe I shouldn't do that. 60%? How bad can it be? You climb ziggurats and descend, delay, keeping an eye out for a man made of stone. Oh no, I failed. "Micah! Micah!" You try to hold the image of a big clay man in your mind's eye. The memory wavers like Sahara air. Before you get too far, you become aware of a roaring, buzzing, hissing noise behind you. It is a sound like no other, a hellish mix of rushing water and swarming insects, and nails on a chalkboard. It blots out thought. You know exactly what it is, the monstrous memory. You dare not turn around. Instead, you flee, plunging deeper into the shifting landscape of the kaleidoscopic architecture, accepting the foreign memories that wash over you like a tide. By the time you manage to lose your pursuer, you've quite forgotten who you were looking for. Damn. We're gonna have to try to remember who we are. Try and find Micah again. The labyrinth twists underfoot. Cobblestones spit at you and bite at your boots. The walls screech. You are leaping between bucking paving slabs, fleeing as fast as you can. You rush past market stalls that rear up like wildcats and copper lanterns that swing at your head. The monstrous memory nips madly at your heels, roaring like a waterfall. As you run, the streets themselves twist and writhe. A solemn stone face looks down from the ceiling above. Big as a hill, its eyes are closed, but it has the faintest frown creasing its brow. Far ahead, a light glimmers and beckons. You must reach it, or all is lost. Let's fight our way into the gleam, staying one step ahead of the monstrous memory. Kicking aside the ropes that coil around your legs, you can make it. You must. As you race towards the light, the streets of Polythreme melt into a stony skin. The tangling ropes become veins of clay. You leap from rib to rib, racing towards what you now realize is Micah's heart. When you reach the light, you find that it is a chunk of diamond, blazing with indescribable brilliance. Its shine keeps even the monstrous memory at bay. When you touch it, the sky above lights up with 1,000 gleams just like it. You stare at one of the light motes above. It resolves itself into a figure of a clayman, turning a factory wheel. As you look from gleam to gleam, you see other claymen, hammering at forges, rowing boats, staring out over the sea. You even see Jasper and Frank digging methodically at the wall of rubble. And then, when you glance back to the diamond, you see it has been replaced by Micah, floundering in lacquer, a brilliant white pinprick twinkling at his chest. The image changes to Micah, injured, praying as you drive a pickaxe into his writhing body to dig out the diamond inside. You hold it up. Its light stretches out to the surrounding gleams. A bright and shimmering web flares, then vanishes, leaving a pulsing afterimage in your eyes. That is a way to escape the mines, but it would almost certainly require sacrificing Micah's life. Ah, no, we've been caught. The monstrous memory has caught up with you. A hissing roar obliviates all thought as the monstrous memory catches up to you. It presses down heavily as a mill wheel, flattening you to the floor. Its claws slash at your back, and dread spills out. Its jaws sink into the back of your neck, and a deep, poisonous shame pumps into your bloodstream. Not even your memory, Mr. Stone's, a searing flash of humiliation and fury echoing forward from centuries in the past, as horrible to contemplate today as it was then. So ancient and potent that it became the monster of this maze. Against your will, and despite your best efforts, you remember. You had expected a quick death, or pain. The latter you could have endured. But this creature, this vast and merciless creature, in its blazing crown, who now holds dominion over your former home, is a collector. Its throne is decorated with writhing things, plucked, knotted like garlands, sustained beyond their natural spans, pinned in place by shards of light. You too have been plucked, and it is unfair. Yes, you have transgressed 100 times over. You have defied the law that is word, that is light. But the arrogant creature does not know that. This is simple caprice. It is an obsessive. You are here to complete its collection. You flee. You do not get far in this realm where the light is word, is law. The weight of its gaze almost crushes you. It utters a single incandescent word. Adornment. Screeching, begging, fighting. All would have been undignified, but better than what happens, which is obedience. Terror, humiliation, shame. You are better than this. You are unconquerable. You are inexorable. And yet, here you are. So that's the masters fighting against the stars, I guess? Interesting. Struggle helplessly, and the years fall down like hammer blows. My nightmares relate. That's not good. How could they do this to you? The rage that soars up within you is not your own. How could they have done this to you, the night hunter, the screech in the dark, the merchant prince? Does it all count for nothing? There are conventions, there are laws. The fury is all-consuming, but beneath it there's more. A poisonous slurry, bitterness, shame. None of it yours, but it fills you like lightning from toes to tingling scalp. No sleep can survive the intensity of feeling. You wake, and as you wake you find yourself momentarily relieved. It was all, as they say, just a dream. Mr. Stones will not forgive you for have seen this, and it was neither your fault nor your intention is immaterial. Okay, so we've accidentally pissed off Mr. Stones. A strong stone hand closes around your arm. It hauls you onto an embankment, momentarily out of reach of the rushing lacquer, and you retch up the liquid contents of your lungs onto the floor. The world seems to throb as blood rushes back to your oxygen-starved brain. The smuggler lies still nearby, mica pounding on their chest, and Mr. Stones is stalking towards you, growing in height, shadows gathering at its shoulders.
My memory!
Shrieks the master, its voice so sharp it leaves a bloody slash across your cheek.
Private! Sacrosanct! Not for thee, thou crawling worm, thou speck of petty dust!
It raises its claw, ready to swipe your head from your shoulders. But mica steps between you. The talons slash into mica instead, again and again, leaving deep gashes across the clay. Rubies knocked loose from Stones' claws scatter like blood drops with every blow. Mica cringes, but does not step aside. Meanwhile, the lacquer is rising. You don't have long before you're all drowned. So we now have two choices. We can remind the smuggler of what they said when you're in the labyrinth. The lacquer is calling them. The time has come. We can drive a pickaxe into the back of Micah's head. In the labyrinth you saw the hearts of the claymen, who are digging at rubble above. You know how to reach them. Let's remind the smuggler. I'd feel bad for putting a pickaxe in the back of Micah's head, considering he's trying to save my life. The smuggler looks up at you. Hold my head under, they whisper. I'll start to struggle, but don't let go. They take a horseshoe-shaped charm from their pocket and clutch it in their hand. You drag them over to the pale, rushing lacquer, grab their hair, and plunge them under the surface. Bubbles. The smuggler thrashes weakly. Behind you, you hear Micah exclaim in pain as Mr. Stones gouges another chunk from his upstretched arm. The bubbles stop. The smuggler falls limp. The flood recedes, slowing to a trickle. You stand up and step away from the smuggler's corpse. Micah has fallen to his knees, covered in deep slash marks, but still alive. Mr. Stones has vanished somewhere into the dark recesses above. What did you do? Asks Micah, staring at the smuggler's body. You do not answer. You sit beside the wall of rubble and wait. A few hours later, the wall of rubble shifts. Pebbles roll across the floor and plop into a dwindling lacquer. The air rings with the insistent tapping of a dozen pickaxes. Is anybody there? Calls a voice, peering through a hole the size of a fist. You see a clayman on the other side of the rubble. It's time for us to leave the mines. Thank the Lord, says Micah. You have no idea how happy I am to see you, brother. Where is Mr. Stones? Asks your rescuer, peering into the shadows behind you. You inform it that Mr. Stones will no doubt make its own way here, as soon as it realizes rescue has arrived. But for now, you and Micah must return to the surface at once. The Clayman gets back to work, along with its dozen unseen colleagues. In no time at all, the hole in the rubble is large enough to crawl through. They lead you a mile back up the tunnel, onto a wooden platform at the bottom of a mine shaft. One of the Claymen turns a winch. Cheerily, you begin to ascend, leaving the yearning darkness and rushing lacquer far below. "What did you do?" asks Micah as the platform ascends. "Why did you kill the smuggler?" The answer, of course, is that it came to you in a dream as you drowned. The thought of trying to explain this triggers a wave of fatigue. As you were led out of the mines, you were stopped short by the sight of an enormous crowd lining the rim of the quarry, cheering your rescue. Journalists circle you like seagulls. "Are you happy to be free?" they ask insistently. "How did you survive? What happened?" After so long in isolation, the presence of so many people and such a cacophony of voices is overwhelming. The Claymen shove them aside and lead you on. Ask the Clayman how they knew how to find us. They had no idea where the collapse took place. Something must have tipped them off about your true location. The Claymen tend not to worry if their statements sound believable. If something is true, they will come out with it and not bother to varnish the words. "For days, we dug at random," says the Clayman escorting you. "Then a creature made from snow arose a lacrimal tributary near where we were digging. It resembled a human. It led us to your location before melting." "The smuggler," says Micah, his voice filled with wonder. He glances at you. "I see." The Claymen lead you and Micah into a little cabin. They put blankets over your shoulders and make you a cup of restorative tea. Out of the window, you see a bedraggled Mr. Stones finally ascend from the mines. The journalists rush forward, lobbing questions at the irascible master, who shrieks at them to leave it in peace. You sit and drink in silence, listening to the faint shrieks of Mr. Stones outside. As you savour your tea's warmth, the weight of 1,000 cold tons of earth lifts from your shoulders. Uh-oh, escape the master's wrath. Mr. Stones comes stalking towards your cabin, brushing the surrounding journalists aside with a snarl. Best not to stick around. Out the window. You are sure that Mr. Stones will calm down when it's achieved some distance from the past week's events? Probably. Memory is a tricky thing. "Good luck out there," says Micah, grasping you by the hand. "Come and see me soon, will you?" You place your tea down, fling the blanket aside, and abscond through the nearest window. Behind you, you hear the door slam open and Mr. Stones shrieking with rage. The smoggy air of London never seemed so fresh. The greys and greens were never so bright. The toiling bells and screeching bats, the defiant shouts of an urchin escaping the constables. It's a symphony. The mines seem like an old half-forgotten nightmare, a memory best left to languish in the past, where it belongs. Recovery from your ordeal is a slow process. You barely ate or drank or slept. For now, you are doing plenty of all three, but you do find time to complete some small but necessary tasks. Let's follow up on Micah. The Clay Quaker. What happened to him after you left the mines? You find Micah in the quarry, sitting on a much too small wooden stool outside the mine's entrance. He has a smile on his broad, stone face, and is hunched over a small leather-bound book, turning the vellum pages with tremendous delicacy. When he spots you, his smile widens. "My friend," he booms, "come, sit, let us talk a while." Since you left the mines, it seems he managed to keep his unfinished nature a secret. He's back to his old life, as a guard. In his spare time, he has started a Bible study group. When you leave, he hands you a pamphlet. "Arguing for better conditions in the mines," he says. "I have been getting involved with the union. I find their ideas very compelling." Well, let's ask around about Mr. Stones' recent activities. Swapping rumours about the Masters is a favourite London pastime, and less than half of it's true, but you know a few reliable sources. From what you gather, Mr. Stones is furious with the other Masters. Apparently, they deliberately left Stones buried for a while to teach it a lesson for the havoc its mining was causing London. Angry as it may be, Mr. Stones has taken the hint. It has withdrawn its mining operations from London's outskirts and is pursuing safer veins of minerals. No doubt it will launch several retaliatory schemes. As for you, it hasn't come after you, not since the day you escaped the mines. Perhaps it has calmed down. Perhaps it has been too consumed by its complex rivalries with the other Masters. Or perhaps it would simply prefer to forget. Let's enjoy a well-earned rest. A few more days, you think, and you will have fully recovered. You lay low and lay down. Any suspicion around recent misdemeanors begins to dissipate. Any wounds you acquired begin to heal. The nightmares, though, remain, which is mildly annoying because that's the highest one. The first few days, you wake expecting to find yourself back in that dark tunnel, sleeping on bare rock, with a hungry belly and tattered clothes. One day, though, you've made breakfast before you realise that you haven't thought about the mines even once. They have faded like all things into memory, and may they there remain, behind you. Yeah, now we've woken up in the mirror marshes. Excuse me for a moment. Well, I accidentally ended up in the Royal Bethlehem because I clicked the wrong thing because I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. But I guess I shall end the episode here. I hope you enjoyed that exceptional story. I enjoyed it a lot. There was a lot of backstory there, and I think it was very good. Hopefully there's nothing hanging around in London. I think I've done everything. If there is, I'll edit it in here. But if not, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. And as always, I'll see you next time.